So welcome everyone. It's been such a long time since we've met.
Indeed.
We're back again. So I just start with a prayer. Take my hat and scarf off. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful. Kindle in us the fire of your love. Send forth your Spirit, and we will be recreated, and you will renew the face of the earth. We ask this, Lord, as you call us to move from maintenance to mission. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Pope Francis has been looking at the decline of Christianity and the need for a renewal. And that renewal will come from us, from the church, moving from maintenance, trying to maintain the same thing, to mission. And that means, and Pope Francis is saying, go out into the streets, meet the people, bring them to your homes, meet them at their homes, all of this. So there's a kind of taking up that sense, don't just be self-absorbed, self-referential. He uses that a lot, but move out that way to the people. So our task is to move from maintenance to mission. And Pope Francis has presented the church with a vision of what it must become today and into the future if it's to be faithful to the mandate of Jesus. Our challenge is to bring our works, our parishes, into an effective alignment with the Holy Father's vision for the entire church. So as Palatines, Francis is into that same spirit. And so to get in line, if you read Gaudium, is Evangelii Gaudium, the joy of the gospel. And then the other stuff that he's talking about as well. So there's so many documents. He's only been here a short time, but they're still coming through. The joy of love. So there's two approaches, he was saying. You can either look at the structures. We have to kind of structure the church to be more dynamic. Or you can look at the individual and personal conversion. And that's what we're going to be looking at the moment. So in this talk I want to speak of the first approach, individual conversion, and then the next one we can follow through another area. In our efforts to calling people to conversion, attractiveness is an important component. So attractiveness, the attractiveness of the gospel. And for Vincent, that attractiveness is holiness. He drew people to God by drawing them into relationship with himself. So you kind of see Vincent, some of the pictures, but there's a holy cheerfulness about him. People loved, like in the conversation, recreation. He's the one that really brought them alive. So he drew people to God by drawing them into relationship with himself. And so that we see that faith is not spread firstly through faith as through relationship. In other words, you become friends with, and then you're able then, in that context, to begin to share your faith. How do you stir, awaken people? Bring about an enthusiasm for great things, because sometimes we're a bit tired. A teacher told his students a story. The story of workers being flown from somewhere in Thailand to work on in Burma. And on the way, it's a long trip, so they played cards. But the thing is, this game, whoever lost was thrown out of the plane. And his student said, "That's horrible." He said, "Yes, but it made the game exciting." So living our vocation and striving for holiness is exciting, but I'll just bring this up a bit closer. And it breaks the boredom that we may experience and gives us an enthusiastic grasp on life. To dedicate our lives to God where we are, to radiate an inner peace as we serve. If we do this, the power and salvation of Jesus can leap into other people's lives. You saw that with Mary in visitation to Elizabeth. She came, and the first greeting, Jesus leapt over, and John leapt in Elizabeth's womb. There's a real transmission of something dynamic and alive. All his life, Vincent sought intimate union with the God of infinite love as his source for apostolic action. But how connect to an infinitely transcendent God? And Vincent's way was desire. And the spark for him, it only takes a spark to get a fire going. And the spark for him was the desire, the dynamics of desire. It only takes a spark to get a fire going. That's how it is in God's life. Once we've experienced him, it's just like spring. It brings us all alive. So a spark, that's just one little spark. You want to sing, you want to pass it on. So God doesn't want an apathetic, no emotion people, but a people passionately engaged in this world for God. And the way to passionate holiness for Vincent is the way of desire. So holiness gives power to the apostolate. You know, suddenly this person who really is this real sense of something different. And also mercy brings a focus on the effectiveness of our apostolate. So Paul encouraged such holiness. He wrote, "How simple is the means to attain great sanctity. It's an ardent desire, a hunger and thirst for holiness, and it's the desire to keep this flame burning, to nourish it if it should weaken, and to maintain this attitude all day long." So that was his thing, like, fan to life this spark of desire. And Sister Louisa Maurizi, whom he had for spiritual direction, she said, how simple is this way to holiness that he taught, and keeping this attitude. So he developed it still further. Not he's talking to sisters, the Mantalati sisters initially, and he's saying to them, through desire we can rival the great evangelists in spreading the gospel. We can exercise a spiritual priesthood, a divine pastoring. We can be apostles and prophets, and Jesus promises to fulfill our desires, and he will do it. For he said, "Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness. They will be satisfied." So he's saying, God will do that if we keep this desire going. There are three elements to this prayer of desire. So how do we live out the UAC today to enfresh it and immerse it in today's society? It's finding the real need in the kairos moment that speaks into the life of people. God wants a holy people, passionate, engaged in this world, and holiness is being set apart for service, not set apart, but for service. And for Vincent, the way to passionate holiness is the way to desire. So there's three elements in this way, in this prayer of desire. And Vincent taught members of the UAC, first, to elicit a desire, that rivals the great deeds done by the saints or great people of our time. Who are the great people of our time? Oscar Romero and Mother Teresa. There's so many others to elicit a desire. In other words, it's a holy rivalry. If they can do it, I can do it. And he wants to really live that desire. People we've known. In other words, to be the very best we can be, challenged by the great-heartedness and generosity of others. And our founder prayed, "Expand, O Lord, at every infinitesimal moment, my desire for you and the things that please you." So expand, O Lord, at every moment, my desire for you and the things that please you. So it's kind of letting this heart, great-heartedness, really grow in us and in him. And Vincent said, if humans stopped putting obstacles in the way, God would pour himself out without measure, because his measure is infinite love. But we just, oh, I can't do it. He's saying, my measure is infinite love. Take those obstacles away and let that come through. And Vincent held, if Francis or Dominic or Ignatius can do it, so can I. So just taking, who are the people that challenge you and you say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So who are the people who have inspired you that you want to emulate or rival? Could you speak to the people right next to you, just the person beside you? Who are the people that inspire you, that you want to respond to, who challenge us? I mean, your own mother, your father. I know my mother, when I was in holidays, I asked all my brothers and sisters, there's 6 of us, to try and bring the memories of Mum. And to me, I feel her very inspiring. You got one? I think we'll move the topic.
I've got a Saint John Paul II, when he came to Poland, our group was put down, and he said one word: do not be afraid.
Yeah,
all young people.
Yeah, kind of solidarity, solidarność. Keep together and fight for it. So the second thing is humility and faithfulness in little things. It's a road that leads to very great holiness, he said. Don't renounce your desire, your ardent desire, it's a burning desire for great holiness. Humble yourself, and God will heal things with his grace. The stuff of greatness is right under our nose. The things which are like, oh no, I'm into IT at the moment. You know. So, in other words, there's messy stuff to be done. The toilets are filthy. And you see that with Dorothy Day, with the men's houses, the workers' houses. She was there scrubbing the toilets. And that's, her greatness was in simple things, right under our noses. So humility and faithfulness in little things. And the third thing is thankfulness for graces received. And Vincent said, remembering that St. Teresa of Avila used to say that thanksgiving for favours received then are a means for obtaining other favours. So really we thought, thank you, God, that was wonderful, what you did for me. And a real thanksgiving for favours received, and then he opens up with other things that he wants to bless us with. So what is this desire that the Lord is talking about? He said, when we desire something useful, it is God who instills this wish, and when we pray for it, it is truly God who asks with us. So imagine, he's saying, this wish, you'll get desires in us, and oh, it's just a desire. But he's saying, if that's from God, then really go with it. And then God, we will obtain the thing that we're really desiring. The desire for great things is in us. So let's look at desire. Deep desire, basic heart wishes, so we're kind of getting into the heart, is a moment of awakening. A pause even in our busiest, most addictive behaviour when we see with childlike wonder with a simplicity and wordlessness that does not compartmentalize the world. It enables us to experience a oneness with reality beyond what we normally experience. Like the baby at the breast, there's a real sense, this is my whole world. So it's a sense of wordlessness. Suddenly I compartmentalize life, but this is the whole life coming together in a tremendous unity that lets me see it as it really is. So just saying that again, it's a moment of awakening, a pause, even in our most addictive behaviour, when we see with childlike wonder, with a simplicity and wordlessness that does not compartmentalize the world. I see it all so clearly, and there's a unity in that clarity. It enables us to experience a oneness with reality beyond what we normally experience. It can happen any place, any time. It's an inbreak of grace. Well, C.S. Lewis tells of 3 instances in his childhood which were experiences of intense desire. Have you ever had that experience? I remember listening to Exodus, and I was curled up. I don't know how old I was, but tremendous desire, real tremendous yearning for something, even as a little child, he's feeling that yearning. For him, it was a flowering bush. He'd come out one day and saw this bush would flower, come out of the college, and there it was in the gardens. A Beatrix Potter book, a poem by Longfellow. And it can happen any time. And he writes in Surprised by Joy, a sensation came over me. Milton's enormous bliss of Eden comes somewhere near it. It was a sensation for desire, of desire, but desire for what? And before I knew what I desired, the desire itself was withdrawn. The world turned commonplace again, or only stirred by a longing for the longing that had just ceased. It had taken only a moment in time, and in a certain sense, everything else that had happened to me was insignificant by comparison. That tremendous sense, an intense desire for what? God. But then things have changed. That one experience changed me. It was something quite different. In that moment of desire, we see our lack of freedom, our conditioning, our lack of response. We realize our human incompleteness, the loneliness of the hollow aspects of our lives. And there's a yearning in us for more. And instead of lessening, this fundamental desire in our heart intensifies. And Pelosi used to say, sempre più, always more, with greater perfection. Always more, want to go for it. Always more was one of Vincent's expressions for this unceasing desire. And Vincent says, since love never says enough, no one can call him mad who desires such a thing. Jesus, you become a full of love for me. How could I not become a full of love for thee? Just pour himself out. And that's what Pelosi did. It was unceasing activity, but it came from a deep presence of God in him reaching out to me. I think we can rush to fill in that incompleteness. So I feel so put down. But if you stayed with that, I'll turn on the telly or the radio or something to blot out what I'm feeling. But if we stayed with that desire, that incompleteness, whether it be a relationship, you can to fill it with relationships, food, alcohol, or noise. Just try and blot that out. Or, in those moments that we're graced, we can intend, and there's a very strong thing for Vincent, that is, use our will to make some choices about the content of our desire. What is it that we really want? What God desires for us? And our lives can take on a new depth or direction. So instead of just blotting it out, just ask, that question. Make a choice. What is it that I intend? What did that experience show me? And that's what I really want, and I intend that thing that has awakened in me. For Pelosi, desire and intention are linked. They both go together. Intention is the conscious experience of desire. On the one hand, desires are rooted deep in a person's heart. They give powerful and energetic orientation to a psyche. Their passions, and from this they derive their strength. So it's not just emotion. There's passion in the desire. I really want this thing that's there. And Vincent wrote, passions serve as a stimulus encouraging us to do great things in the realm of the Spirit. So now I feel passionate. It's not so good. I'll go and have a Bex and lie down for a while. But the thing, and since our desires are so powerful and passionate, there's a need to discern the source of these desires in our hearts. Because they could come from different things. Discern them, where do they come from? Holy desires are those that orient a person toward God. They're graces. But even these tap into an energy which is at least partially physical. Desires generate power and physical energy, and they galvanize our spirituality and our mission. So for example, you're at a footy match in your teams. I just saw that the kids were having the twilight sports, and one of the boys was after 400 metres, and the sister, "Go, suckers, lift it up, go!" So he suddenly, you saw him, and then he won the race. But he just needed that galvanizing and that energy that comes from passion to get to the end. On the other hand, intention needs desire. Intention, knowledge by itself, doesn't bring power. I know all the rules and all of that, but I don't feel so passionate. The true desire is knowledge set aflame within us. Knowledge is like machinery, but vision, strong desire, is the power that drives the machinery. A faith vision is a faith born out of a strong desire, intent in doing God's will, and nurtured by God's word and by the living tradition within the church. And when we tap into the strongest desire collectively among the members here of our parish, the local church for mission, a vast, unlimited vision is released. If we could have a united vision in our community or other works, being of one accord in our desires and our beliefs, in other words, a dedicated unity, we would have a powerful church. So we all kind of, like when you go on a pilgrimage, there's a real sense, there's a unity, and there's a power that grew out of that experience. So Goethe says, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, magic and power in it. Begin it now. No dream is too big for the one who dares to follow it. Dare the dream. That's Goethe. And Browning wrote, a man's reach must exceed his desire. Oh, what is heaven for? You see the children climbing up to get up that far, and the biscuit tin's up a bit further, so they're going to get up there. So that grasping, the yearn, our reach, our grasping, is not there yet, but I'll keep climbing. She's up on the top cupboard, and the cupboard's about to collapse. So how do we expand our desire as we think of the task before us as church in the world? A passionate people for a passionate church. We're just looking at this tree. There's my God seed there. And some of the things that I want to be me. And from that goes, I want to be free. I want to give up my job. I want to stop smoking. On that side, I want to use my gifts. I want a better job. So there's God's desire coming through. But then to go further, I want to love and be loved. Then I want to be attractive. I want to be, people think I'm interesting. I want to lose weight. I want to win the lottery. So, and then on this side, I want to do well in my exams. I want to use my gifts there. And then I want to give you something. So I want to be a nurse, I want a baby, I want to know more about you, I want to win the lottery, all of that. So that's it. So it's a real sense, the desires, you could say they're kind of relational, physical desires. But when you translate it into relationship to God, then, but it's relationship to God in relationships, in the situation we're in. So what I'd like now, let's reflect. on Pope Francis's challenge to move from maintenance to mission, and Vincent's challenge to desire great holiness in apostolate so as to attract others for calling. But actually now, I invite you to simply and gently notice what is in you right now that you term desire. What is in you right now? And what is it that you experience as desire right now? So let's just be positive, just quietly close our eyes. What is it? If you're the challenge outward, what's in me right now which I would term desire? Is your hungry, trying lunch? Could be starting on that level, but what is it? And then, what is it that you experience as desire right now? We go a little further. What underlies this experience of desire? Is there something deeper in your heart from where your desires come from? Some basic sense of what you're hoping for or dreaming about. So let's just take it, this desire could be on that level. Now take it a bit deeper. What underlies this experience of desire? Is there something deeper in my heart from which these desires come from? Some basic sense of what you're hoping for or dreaming about. Gently, what does it seem like to you? Take it a little deeper. What are your deepest desires, those basic yearnings in your heart that you would like to do or to be, which perhaps you may not have had time to address? Don't be afraid to dream, to expand your desires. We were made by, for, and in love for a God of love.